Hey everybody, happy Friday. I'm Angelia. Welcome back to Read and Reread. Today it's Friday Reads for July, whatever it is. Let me look at the calendars behind it's July 22nd. Who knew? I should know because we're in the middle of a house sale and purchase. So I really should be keeping track of these dates a little better because otherwise, I might forget to close on my house or something. But the craziness and the chaos may intensify over the next few weeks before this project is completed. But we are basically selling the house I am sitting in at this moment and buying another one. And of course, we got to pack up all this stuff, including all the books in this library. So that's happening. Meanwhile, I read a couple of books this week. We watched a couple of shows. We're still watching the same shows that are letting out their episodes very slowly. So Only Murders in the Building Season 2, which I think is funny and I'm enjoying. I think I like it better than Steven does. And then we're still watching the thriller The Old Man, which is getting pretty tedious and needs to wrap it up and finish. And then we also started watching a show called Counterpart, which is sort of a science fiction show on Prime about this man who has kind of a low-level bureaucratic job. He's American, but the story takes place in Berlin, and he works at this building. He's for 29 years he's been doing this job that he doesn't really even know what it is, but he keeps getting passed over for promotions. It's kind of like a what's that Brazil kind of situation where he's just sort of a cog in an inexplicable wheel. And then he finds out that there is a parallel to our world where everybody has an exact double who it used to be parallel. At one point, things began to diverge. And so you have a person who looks just like you, but they might have a very different personality and demeanor than yourself. And he is needed for something that has to do with that other world. So that's all I'm going to tell you about that. But we've watched a few episodes. It's pretty good so far. It's kind of weird. So we like that kind of stuff. All right. So with the reading, the first thing I read this week was a wonderful surprise. I read Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. And this was one, I talked about it in my video about post-apocalyptic fiction as a book that I had acquired that I was meaning to read. And so now I have read it, and I really wish I had read it before I made that video because I would have definitely included it because I loved this book. And I did read the foreword by N.K. Jemisin that is in this edition, and I read it after I read the book, which I kind of do that. When there's a foreword, especially if it has been added to like a subsequent edition, I like to read it later because I'm afraid that they're going to give out spoilers. And she did a little bit, but not too bad. But it is worth reading that foreword because she has an interesting discussion about the 3 times in her life that she read this book and how it changed, and it took the 3rd time for her to really absorb the whole thing. And I feel like I absorbed it fairly well, but I will read it again because it was really, really good. It is it's about a teenage girl who lives with her family in a gated community where they do a lot of community guarding of this community. And the situation is slightly in the future. Things have kind of unraveled, and there really isn't any middle class. There's wealthy fortressed people somewhere. You never really see them in the book, but people talk about them. And then there are completely desperate feral people that will just pillage and steal and do anything to get the bare essentials. And then there's not a lot in between. The people in between are trying to make their own communities, guard them. They live within walls. The older people are thinking, well, when things get back to normal, and the younger people don't know any sense of normal, and nobody knows for sure if things are going up or they're going to go down. And But Lauren Olamina has her own ideas about where she thinks things are going and what she thinks they should do. And she doesn't share all of her ideas with her father, who is a Baptist minister and sort of the leader of this community, because she loves and respects him a lot, and she doesn't really want to talk to him about how different her opinions are from his, that she no longer shares his faith, and that she's actually developing a new faith, the way that she thinks that people should live going forward, and she calls it Earthseed, and she writes about it extensively in her journals that are quoted throughout this book. So in this book, a number of things happen that cause more upheaval, and I don't want to give anything away, but a large portion of this book reminded me a little bit of The Road by Cormac McCarthy, because there's a lot of times of people traveling on foot in hopes of reaching a better destination and encountering a lot of really savage peril on the way. So that is a spoiler alert, not a spoiler alert, like a trigger warning, like a danger alert. It's a harsh book. It's a scary book. It's unsettling, and a lot of things happen. And so if this is not a good time for you, don't read it right now. But it was really, really good. And I actually, as far as an enjoyment of a book, I liked it better than The Road. I thought The Road is beautifully written and really devastating, but I liked this one better. I liked there was more to it. There were more people, interactions. Lauren has a plan. We don't know if it's going to succeed. So I felt like there was just more for me to be interested in this plot. And there is a sequel that I now desperately must get a hold of called The Parable of the Talents. And according to Jemison in the introduction, she did have in mind, Butler did, to write a third book called I think it was The Parable of the Trickster, but she passed away before she could do that. So I'll have to see where things leave off, but I have discovered a new author that I really, really like, so I want to read that second book, and I also want to read her book, Kindred, which is a time travel novel. So I was very happy that I decided to take a chance. I had absolutely no idea if I was going to like this book or not, and I actually really loved it. Then after that, I went a different direction, and this week was kind of a surprise, because this one was the wild card, and then I thought this one was the sure thing, and it kind of turned out the other way around. So this is You Have a Friend in 10A by Maggie Shipstead, and it is her new release, and it's a collection of short stories. Now, part of the problem here is on me, because I thought that this was her new book and a new collection of stories she had written as her new book. And actually, this is just a roundup of stories from the past decade that she has written at different times. They've been published in different magazines or literary journals, and then they were brought together as a release, which, okay, but I guess I could have done my research and found that out, and then I might have thought twice about if I needed to purchase this, or could it just be a library book? Because as with a lot of story collections like that are from earlier times for the writer and then more recent times, it's kind of uneven. And I don't know how many stories there are in here. They're pretty long stories. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 stories. A few of them, none of them are poorly written, but a few of them I really liked, and then a few of them were just kind of, not memorable to me. I could take them or leave them. And 1 or 2 I actively disliked. So I didn't love this overall, and that's kind of the experience a lot of times in a book of short stories, is they're not all going to be home runs for the reader. And what's interesting is that I went and read some reviews, and a lot of people said similar things, that they liked some stories more than others, but what was funny was that what they identified as the ones they thought were the really good ones were all different. So I guess that speaks well that the book is well written overall. Different people loved or disliked different stories. So for me, it was kind of a mixed bag. And I did see little glimmers of the the style and the voice and the kind of characters that I loved in Great Circle, but it kind of flickered in and out as I read through the stories. So I don't regret that I read them, but I didn't love them as much as I hoped I was going to. So, you win some, you lose some. But so if you were, on the fence about whether to purchase this, I would say maybe check, see if your library has it, because you might find that you want to dip in and out and not read all the stories. All right, so that's what the 2 books that I finished. And then what I have chosen to read next is in this book. Look how cute with the little shoes. This is Love and Friendship and Other Youthful Writings by Jane Austen. So this is part of my Jane Austen July, and I am going to read Lady Susan, which is kind of at the end of this book. And let's see, how long is that Lady Susan? It's one of her youthful writings. I think it's a short novel. I don't know. It's back here. Is it, it's letters. Okay. Oh, I love an epistolary novel. Okay. So that's Lady Susan. I've heard it's very charming and delightful, and I've never read it. So I've read the novels a lot of times. I've never read Lady Susan, so I should be able to report back on that next week and tell you what I thought. So I think that is about it. It wasn't like a really heavy reading week because there is a lot going on. Starting to pack, all the back and forth stuff with realtor and paperwork and, family dramas and different things. But, that's how it is some weeks. So we continue to hide out from the heat, although we're really catching a break. Down here in coastal Texas, it's only been maybe like 90 to 92, 93, where it's been like some places in Texas have been 110. So we're not complaining. It just feels like regular summer right now, so it's all good. Anyway, I hope you had a good reading week as well. Let me know what you're up to, what's good in your reading pile, and I will check in again soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.